Soccer Squad, aka David here, along with Mets King Glenn and Cardinal Nation Rob. And today we are going to be talking about what was just announced, which is the Hall of Fame. Who gets into the Hall of Fame, who got snubbed, what we think about that. And we're also going to be going through each position in baseball and going through our top 5 players at that position as of right now, playing the game today. Not all time. We're probably doing that at a later podcast. So, like I said, that's what we're going to be doing today. So with that, Glenn, go for it.
Alright guys, what is up? Welcome to Smashmouth Baseball's first podcast of 2017. We are extremely hyped for this baseball season, and our first podcast is going to be, as David said, we're going to talk about the Hall of Fame. We're going to give some opinions on players, on what we think should happen going forward, and then, like you said, we're going to do our top 5 at every single position, just current players, nothing, from the past, no Babe Ruth, nothing like that. But yeah, so Rob is going to start, and he's going to give his opinion on the Hall of Fame, some players, and some things that he has to say, and we'll all go in according order. So Rob, take it away, buddy.
All right, let's say congratulations to Jeff Bagwell, Tim Raines, and Pudge Rodriguez. Making the Hall of Fame this year, they all well deserve it. With Hoffman and Guerrero with a close behind, which probably some of us think should have been in there before a couple of these guys, but that's all right. Talk about the Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame, if you look at the votes, some of these guys that are proven juicers, proven steroids, that are getting close to being in the Hall of Fame. Which, in my opinion, if you're going to put them in, then let's put everybody in. And the first one that gets in before any of them should be Pete Rose, in my opinion. And I say don't even have a voting or anything. Just put him in. He deserves it. If these other guys that are using roids and all this other stuff are going to get in and they're close to it, then put them in. Let's also talk about a couple names that I've noticed that are not in, that are well-known names that deserve it, that aren't in, which are Keith Hernandez, and 2 that really surprised all of us here is Shoeless Joe Jackson and Roger Maris. Why aren't these guys in the Hall of Fame? As far as much as I can remember, I don't think the Hall of Fame is really... I think the Hall of Fame is a separate organization from Major League Baseball. I've read that once, and the Hall of Fame could actually put Pete Rose in itself, and the MLB couldn't do anything about it. So why isn't that happening? But why? And these other names too. These guys are deserving more than these upcoming guys that are Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens and these guys using steroids are going to be getting into within the next couple years, I would say. I think that's about all I got on. Another player that I forgot to bring up, who has low numbers, which I think also deserves to get in there, is Larry Walker, and he's not getting any votes. And I'm really not understanding why. He was a good player. I don't think he's on the juice list. I could be wrong, but I think he well deserves it. He was a great player in my opinion. I guess you're up, David.
All right, so I definitely agree with what happened today in the Hall of Fame. I think Raines deserves to be in. I think Bagwell deserves to be in. I think Pudge definitely deserves to be in. But another first-year guy like Pudge that did not get in today is Vladimir Guerrero. Vladimir Guerrero, if you guys follow us on Smashmouth Baseball, you'll see I made a post about this earlier. But Vladimir Guerrero is one of the most exciting outfielders of all time, I think. You can add him in, with the Mickey Mantles, with every Jim Edmonds. He's exciting to watch at bat and in the field. His arm is one of the best ever in right field. He could throw at anybody from anywhere. And at the plate, I mean, he hit everything. He hit curveballs that bounced in the dirt first like he was golfing multiple times. And then that's not, fiction. That's real. It's happened. I was just reading a story of them interviewing people, in the past. And, it's not just the excitement value, obviously, that gets people into the Hall of Fame. Vladimir Guerrero has the stats to back it up. I don't have those stats in front of me right this second, but I have looked at them, and Vladimir Guerrero has the stats to be in the Hall of Fame. And so does Trevor Hoffman, who is a second-year guy on the ballot today that also missed out by only 5 votes. He was the leader in saves for a while until Mariano broke it, but in my opinion, he's the second best closer of all time, and it's actually a very close argument between him and Mariano. I mean, a lot of people could go both ways on that. So look next year to see Vladimir Guerrero and Trevor Hoffman definitely being in this announcement of making the Hall of Fame.
For me, I don't have anything on one particular player, but like Rob was saying, I'll add on to that. If you let one steroid user in, you gotta let everyone in question in. You gotta be consistent and not biased. If Bagwell gets in, then Bonds, Clemens, McGuire, Rafael Palmeiro, Manny Ramirez, so on, all need to get in, as well as Pete Rose and Shoeless Joe, like Rob said. You can't say one cheat or one wrong is worse than another. I mean, this isn't a trial where like murder versus weed smoking is the issue. From now on, if, like you said, Bagwell is in, which he is, and steroids is no longer the issue to stop people from getting in, stats and accolades, not anything else, need to be the factors to let people in the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
Lastly, degenerate baseball writers, the pencil-pushing geeks that shouldn't have a goddamn say, they never stepped on a baseball diamond in their life, they were president of the chess club in high school, don't know a thing about sports, they let computers and fake stats determine someone's livelihood and success in baseball, and it's bullshit. Only coaches, players, and Hall of Famers should have a say. Fans and writers need to shut up, keep silent, we should have no say, we weren't there, we're not in the clubhouse, we don't know what's going on, we're just, I don't have a problem with Bagwell getting in, his stats back him up. I don't have a problem with Pudge getting in, although I do think Pudge is a little overrated. I know he was one of the best defensive catchers of all time, but when you look at the man's offensive stats, nothing at all jumps out at you. Nothing. He has nothing better than, I mean, he has Jorge Posada stats, and Jorge Posada is off the ballot completely right now. So we won't get too much into that. I do think Pudge should be a Hall of Famer, so we'll stop that. And then Tim Raines, man, Tim Raines is one of the most underrated players of all time. His stolen bases, his fielding, his consistency, his average. The man, he's one of the few that definitely deserves to be in. So there's no complaints from me about that. So enough about the Hall of Fame. We're gonna get into our top 5 players at every single position. Rob, we're gonna let you start. We're gonna go from catcher and to beyond the diamond. So we'll start with catcher. Rob, who do you have as your top 5 catchers?
Real quick before I do that, Vlad, I wrote down Vlad's stats earlier. He batted 318 lifetime with 449 home runs. So yeah, I think you'll be getting it.
Yeah, that's Hall of Fame stats for sure.
All right, my top 5 catchers at position today are Buster Posey, Perez, I
think he just wants to say Yadier Molina. That's why he's struggling right now. He just wants to put Yadier on Molina.
Francisco Cervelli, I got you, yeah.
And Molina at top 5. Then my top
hold on.
We'll just do catcher first, and then we'll move on like that.
So David, on the horn.
Yeah. All right. So you heard his top 5. He wanted to put Molina at every single 1 through 5. So we'll go with David now.
Okay, so I'm gonna go from 5 down to 1 for each of my lists, or 5 up to 1, I should say, for each of my lists. So at number 5 on my list, and the top 5 catchers in the game today, that's where Yadier Molina slots in for me. In 2016, he batted .307 with 8 home runs and 58 RBIs, playing 147 games. A lot of people, if you haven't really been paying attention, you'd think, oh, Yadier Molina's getting old. He probably didn't play a lot of games this year, yada, yada, yada. Well, he still played 147 games, so he missed only 15 games total in 2016. And at his age, that is a shock to me. He's still amazing defensively. He's not the Yadi he was a couple of years ago defensively, but he is still by far probably the best defensive catcher in the game. Moving on to number 4, this is where I put the rookie sensation Gary Sanchez. The reason I have him at number 4 is because he only logged 53 games last year, so we have to see, can he put that on for an entire season? Can he stay healthy? Will pitchers figure him out? He hit almost 300, 20 home runs. We know what he did. He had a phenomenal season. At number 3 for me is where I put Salvador Perez. He's not there average wise. He only hit 247, but he's got some pop. He's hit 22 home runs, but at the same time also only had 64 RBIs, but also caught 140 games. That's a high number for catchers these days. The next two for me is actually I changed at the last minute. Number 2 for me is Buster Posey. He hit 288 with 14 home runs, 80 RBIs, and 146 games. But I didn't look up the splits for sure, but I guarantee at least 30 of those games were at first base because he plays a lot of first base nowadays. And that's a big reason for me as to why he's not the best catcher in the game. And the other reason is because this man actually put up better stats last year and has been fairly consistent along these lines over time, and that is Jonathan Lucroy. Going from the Brewers to the Rangers last year, throughout the season he hit 292 with 24 home runs, 81 RBIs, and 142 games. And each one of those stats, average home runs and RBIs, were better than Posey, and Lucroy caught more games than what Posey did. They're both very good defensively, but the reason of Lucroy catching more and still putting up better stats than Posey is the reason I put Lucroy at 1 and Posey at 2.
Okay, my list is almost the same, a little different. At 5B, I have Yadier Molina. Now, with my stats, I'm not going to be doing just last season stats only. I'm going to be going over 162 game average over their career and in terms of right now. So Yadier Molina averages 11 home runs, 71 RBIs, hits 285, and scores 89 runs per season per 162, which is amazing for him because when this kid came up, he wasn't supposed to be a hitter. He wasn't supposed to be anything. He was supposed to be a great defensive catcher and nothing more. Turns out he's one of, believe it or not, one of the top 20 hitting catchers of all time. And don't forget, in the postseason, in the NL 320, in both series. And this is not over 2 series. This is 89 games played for Yadier Molina in the postseason. 89 games played in the postseason. That's third to Derek Jeter and another Yankee. It's obviously a Yankee. So that's why Yadier Molina is still 5B on my list. I can't take him off the list completely because as long as the man breathes, he deserves to be on this list. I still hate his guts, but we'll move on. Next, we have Gary Sanchez at 5A. Now, I wasn't going to put him on this list because he only played around 40 games last year, but what he showed in those 40 games is something I have never seen before from a catcher. He could very well be number 1 on this list by the end of the year. No one would be surprised. He's got one of the brightest futures in the history of baseball at the catcher position. You can gush all over Gary Sanchez. We just need to see a little bit more from him before we can start putting him in the Hall of Fame already. Number 4, I have Salvador Perez. Now, people think this guy's been around the league for 15 years because he looks like he's 50, but he's only been in the league for 6 years. And in those 6 years, he's averaged 21 home runs, 81 RBIs with a 272 average. And this man plays every single game. Without him, the Kansas City Royals, not only do they not win a World Series, they don't make the playoffs. They're still in a 35-year drought without Salvador Perez. He's one of the most underrated catchers in the league today, and he deserves his respect. Number 3, which is a little bit of a shock to some people, is Wilson Ramos. Ooh. This man, when he plays a full 106, which no catchers play 162 games, but on average, 23 home runs, 89 RBIs, a 267 average, a gun behind the plate, and is one of the most... Every time someone catches with this guy, the pitcher will say he's one of the best catchers in the league in terms of helping the pitcher frame, helping the pitcher throw the right pitches. Max Scherzer said he is the best catcher he's ever played with. When this man is healthy and when he's in the lineup, he produces almost better offensively than any catcher in baseball if he gets the proper at-bats, which he hasn't got over the last 2 years is when he's finally starting to play, and people are starting to realize this man can hit. This is one of the best hitting catchers in the league. Great defense, great leadership. For that reason, I have him at number 3. Now, 1 and 2, I also had a conundrum between Buster Posey and Lucroy, but I put Jonathan Lucroy at number 2 because, like you said, with the position thing, Jonathan Lucroy is going to be DHing a lot this year. So they say. I don't know. I know he caught more games than Posey last year. Posey played a lot of games at first base. But for the simple fact that we're not just going based on last year alone, we're going based on an overall, just an overall career. I'm going Lucroy 2. He's averaged 17 home runs, 79 RBIs, 284 average. He's led the league in doubles twice for a cat. That's insane. That's absolutely insane. He's definitely one of the most underrated offensive catchers of all time. But the reason I'm putting Posey 1, 21 homers, 95 RBIs, a 307 average, and a 378 average with runners in scoring position. When it came playoff time, there is not many hitters in the game better than Buster Posey. Anything you can talk about a leader, an MVP, just a true leader, Buster Posey is that as a person and with stats. So for that reason, I'm going to put Buster Posey number 1 with Jonathan Lucroy a very close second. So, now that we're done with catchers, we're going to move on to the next part, one of the most important positions on the diamond, one of the most underrated positions on the diamond, first base. So, Rob, what you got?
All right, first base. I apologize. I don't have the stats these guys do. I got confused on this podcast and really had to rush through my list here. So,
That's
but my
okay.
top 5 first basemen, I have. All right, 1 through 5. I'm going Anthony Rizzo, Paul Goldschmidt, Joey Votto, and Albert Pujols, and Chris Davis.
A lot of big names.
I really think Anthony Rizzo at first base is probably right now one of the at tops. Not just because they won a World Series, but even though he's a freaking Cub, the kid is good. I always had a lot of respect for Paul Goldschmidt. I think he's a hell of a first baseman. Joey Votto too. Albert Pujols being one of the best. At first base, Cardinals and Angels. And Chris Davis, I think he deserves to be in that 5 spot, maybe even higher, if some people might say. I could change Pujols with Davis, but that's what I have.
All right, David.
All right, so first base. My list definitely looks different than that. So at the 5s, okay, let me just go back. Glenn said he's basing his stats off of the 162 game average. I'm stating mine off the 2016 season because these are the guys that I would take 1 through 5 right now, and I think looking at their stats from the most recent season, which is 2016, is a big help to that because, and then I mean, obviously I don't have them written down, but I looked at 2015 and, compare them, see, are they being steady? Are they going up? Are they going down? So that's why I did that. But back to my first base list. At number 5 right now for me, I have Freddie Freeman. He played first base in 159 games last year, so he only missed 3 games. In those 159 games, he batted .302 with 34 home runs and 91 RBIs. Now, we've always known Freddie Freeman as a big average guy. He hit about 20 home runs, drove in, 80 to 100 or more RBIs. But last year he really came into his power and still was able to keep that average up. It wasn't the 310, 320 I think he was hitting, but it was still over 300, which is phenomenal. 34 home runs, 91 RBIs. Yes, that number's a little low when you think, oh, he hit over 30 home runs. He doesn't have 100 RBIs. Well, it was the Braves we're talking about. So, at number 4 is where I slot Paul Goldschmidt. He played 158 games, but he actually went down from his, normal years, which, I mean, it's crazy because he still hit 297 with 24 home runs and 95 RBIs. So for most guys, that's a good year, but for Paul Goldschmidt, I mean, that is a slightly down year. At number 3 is actually where I slot Anthony Rizzo. We all know that. We sadly had to see the Cubs in the World Series in the playoffs for how much longer than where they should have been. But he hit 292, 32 home runs, 109 RBIs. I mean, this kid is good. I think, even if he was still back on the Padres, I think, he'd be putting up some good stats. Obviously, probably not the RBIs, but he'd be good. Number two is where I have Miguel Cabrera. Um, Still playing 158 games a year. Yes, he probably DH'd a good majority of that. Um, but he still hit 316, 38 home runs, 108 RBIs. I mean, Miguel Cabrera is probably the most consistent hitter in the last 10 years or so. I mean, he's always hitting over 300. He's always got, 30 to 40 or more home runs, 100 RBIs. He's always there. You can depend on him every single year. And then number one is where I have Joey Votto. Joey Votto is playing on one of the worst teams in baseball, but does not want to leave. He wants to play for the Reds and wants to help them rebuild, even though he knows that by the time this rebuild is over for the Reds, I mean, his career could be over. But 326, 30 home runs, 97 RBIs. Joey Votto is the ultimate first baseman. He does everything. He plays defense. He plays offense very well. He is the number one first baseman in baseball right now for me. So that was my first base list, Glenn.
Well, I will tell you that we have the same exact top five first baseman, but definitely not in that order. So,
Oh,
here we go. I agree with you about Freddie Freeman, number five. Very underrated player. As a
man.
Mets fan, I've seen this man destroy us personally, himself, on crappy teams. His 162 game average is 25 bombs, 92 RBIs, 288 average with a 373 OBP. He's got a great glove. He's a leader. You can't say many better things about Freddie Freeman. If he was on a better team with better protection, this man might be third on the list. We don't know. But as it stands, Freddie Freeman, one of the best first basemen in baseball. And the only reason he's five is because there's just so many good first basemen. Number four, I have David's number one at my number four in Joey Votto. Now, everything you said about Joey Votto is correct. His 162 game average is 28 bombs, 93 ribbies, 313 average with a 425 OBP, which is higher than anybody else's in baseball. The man gets on, he's an on-base machine. He has the greatest eye in baseball. He reminds me of Tony Gwynn, the way he can just get on base no matter what. The problem with him is Joey Votto, to me, is not a leader. And that, to me, definitely hurts him on this list because the man I have at number one, you know the man's a leader. But we'll get to that later. Again, and Joey Votto's stats, besides OBP and average, you look at his home runs, you look at his RBIs, they're not 30-100 type stats. Even over the last 4 years combined, they weren't 30 and 100. And he's playing in Cincinnati. So if you're playing in Cincinnati and you're not hitting bombs, you're just not... he's a complete player in terms of average, OBP, great. But when it comes to power and it comes to leadership, Joey Votto to me just doesn't have it. This guy's fighting with guys in the stands. This guy, Brandon Phillips, does not like Joey Votto. He said it on he's like, Joey Votto's cool and everything, but in the clubhouse, he's too quiet. He doesn't show leadership. For that alone, that's why I have Joey Votto at number four. At number three was a guy that I would have had number one going into last season. That's Paul Goldschmidt. Paul Goldschmidt, people do not realize how good this man is. And I know he had an off year, but even with an off year, he's averaging 29, 105, a 299 average, and something else that a lot of first basemen cannot do, and that's steal bases. He's averaging 21 stolen bases. He can run, he can field, he can hit bombs, he can hit for average. He's great in the clutch. And he's playing on a team that didn't have A.J. Pollock. He's playing on a team that was supposed to be great, and they, suffered. He didn't have the best year, but still, considering he was the only one in that lineup for half the year, still did great. And again, if he winds up number one on this list at the end of the year, I will not be surprised. At number two, it was tough to do this, but because he is a World Series champion and he's definitely got the brightest future, I'm going to put Anthony Rizzo. Anthony Rizzo in a short time, 29 bombs, 92 ribbies. Now, the average is only 267 over his 162 game average. He strikes out a little bit too much. He's not as clutch as you would think. But when it comes, remember, he's just getting started. He is just getting started. And we're talking about right now. If we were talking about overall, I'd probably have Pujols number one. But since it's right now, and we're going over, the last couple of years, 162 game average, Anthony Rizzo could definitely also be number one on this list by the end of the year, and it would not surprise me. World Series champion on a team that hasn't won one in over 100 years. You can't say enough good things about Anthony Rizzo. Now, number one, and this is I love this man because he'll never stray away from who he is, and he'll never give you an inconsistent year. Miguel Cabrera, every single year, you're guaranteed 30 bombs, you're guaranteed 100 RBIs, you're guaranteed a 300 average, you're guaranteed a leader, you're guaranteed someone that doesn't take any crap, you're guaranteed someone that if someone else on the team is struggling or if someone else on the team is acting up, Miguel Cabrera will go over to him and handle his business. People also underrate his fielding. Now, he's not the best fielder in the world, but he's also not the worst fielder in the world. He doesn't make many errors. Every play he needs to make, the man makes. And while he DH'd a couple of times last year, trust me, it wasn't as much as you think. I think it was only about 22 games.
Oh, wow.
So he's played 135 plus at first base. And that's another thing about him. He'll hit the DL, once every 3-4 years, but he is very consistent in terms of playing. 34, 120, 321. That's this man's 162 game average. Those are Triple Crown numbers every year. So for that reason, he is the best first baseman still today. Now, going into next year, we don't know, but as of right now, I got Miggy at number one. So next position we got is second base. This one was one of the toughest ones for me because there's just so many good ones. But we'll let Rob go his top five.
All right, second base, going 1 through 5. Number 1 on my list is Jason Kipnis for Cleveland Indians. Last year he batted 326. He's a very good first baseman, in my opinion. Could have been a World Series champ this year, broke that drought for the Indians. Very exciting player to watch, even though it's for the Indians. Number 2, I hope I say his last name right, Brian Dozier.
Yep.
For the Minnesota Twins. Hit over 40 home runs last year. Cardinals, I think I heard they were trying to get him, but they wanted too much for him. I would have loved to have him at second base in St. Louis, but that's not going to happen. Number 3, I got Jose Altuve for the Astros. Kid, he's a hell of a player. Batted 294, I believe. Exciting to watch too. He's got a good future ahead of him, and too bad he's always going to fall short. No pun intended, being with the Astros. All right. And then let's see, Kipnis, Dozier, Altuve, Ian Kinsler is number 4. He's a hell of a player for Detroit, batted 295, something like that. I don't know his home run stats or anything, but he's a hell of a guy to have in your lineup. And then number 5, I got Devin Travis for that team up there in Canada. He batted a 304 last year, somewhere around there. Let's see, there was a guy. I didn't know to go Joe Panic or Devin Travis, honestly, because those are. So I guess kind of like Mets King did. I'm going to put Joe Panic at 5A because he's a good veteran up there in San Francisco. Good guy to have on your team. He batted. Let's see. Joe Panic. He batted over 300, I think. Yeah, 309 last year. He's another good guy to have on the team. That's all I got. Yeah, that's 1 through 5. That's my top 5 plus 1.
All right. So, my top 5 second basemen in the game today. I have Jason Kipnis at 5B as well, kind of like an honorable mention type guy. He is a fantastic second baseman. I didn't grab stats on him because I kind of forgot about him actually, but he's another one of those underrated guys where you don't hear a lot about him, but he is definitely one of the best at his position. But at my actual number 5 spot, I had D. Gordon. Yes, he was caught for using steroids, whatever, blah blah blah. Um, he only played in 79 games last year. Um, and I think all that on his mind really kind of hurt him a little bit, and especially with the loss of Jose Fernandez towards the end of the year. He actually only hit 268, which is much lower than his normal average. He hit one home run, which is right after Jose Fernandez's death, might I add. 14 RBIs. I mean, but he is the prototypical leadoff man. He hits for a high average. He steals, excuse me, a lot of bases. D. Gordon is still number 5 on my list. Number 4 on my list, I have Robinson Cano. He played 161 games last year, and trust me, he doesn't DH very much because Nelson Cruz is basically the Mariners' full-time DH. So 161 games playing in the field, 298, 39 home runs, and 103 RBIs. You know, People thought his transition to Seattle was going to be hard, and the first year, he did struggle a little bit. But this is Robinson Cano we're talking about. Great defender, very good ball player. Robinson Cano, number 4 on my second base list. Number 3, I have Brian Dozier. Um, really a breakout star last year. Played in 155 games for the Twins, 268 average, but hit 42 home runs and 99 RBI. So almost broke that 100 RBI threshold with a Twins team where he didn't have a lot of help around him. Number 2 is where I slot in Daniel Murphy. Now, obviously, Mets King isn't going to like this very much, but Daniel Murphy is an incredible bat to have in the lineup. Yes, his defense is not very good by any means, but his bat, he hit 347. He hit 25 home runs. He had 104 RBIs. He played in 142 games. Yeah, he missed some there at the end, but 347 average. I mean, that is absolutely incredible. And so Daniel Murphy, just for offensive reasons, really, is why he slots in at number 2 for me. And number 1 for me is Jose Altuve. He sure doesn't fall short on my list. Punny. Um, in Let's see, he played 161 games last year. Majority of those also at second base. He doesn't DH at much, if at all. He hit 330 with 24 home runs, 96 RBIs, and still swiped 30 bags. For me, Jose Altuve is by far the best second baseman in baseball because he does it all. He is a 5-tool player: defense, speed, contact, power, glove. He does everything. So that is my top 5 at second base right now.
Okay. Outside of your number 5, we pretty much have the same list, not in that same order, but here we go. Now my honorable mentions, because it was tough to leave these guys off, but you got DJ LeMahieu, who hits 320 every damn year. He's
I
one of the
forgot
best in
about
the league,
him.
but I didn't put him on the list simply because I don't know, I just didn't. Dustin Pedroia as well, little short guy who can do it all as well. Definitely a leader, but his stats have dipped over the last couple of years, which is why he missed off the list. Ben Zobrist, one of the most clutch human beings on planet Earth. The problem is he doesn't just play second. He can play the outfield. He can play short. So he's not technically a second baseman, even though that's where he played most of the games. Jason Kipnis, I don't have on my list. He would be like 5B or whatever, but really good second baseman, underrated. There's just a lot of other better second basemen in my opinion. And Ragin Odor, who I know he plays in Texas, so that inflates his stats a little bit, but man, his stats are damn good over the last couple of years. So, at number 5, I got Ian Kinsler. His last 162 game average is 22 bombs, 83 RBIs, 277 average. However, his last 3 years have all been better than that. His glove is he's got one of the best range in the league. His glove is amazing. He'll never mess up a play. He's just a consistent leader. He can bat leadoff, he can bat second, he can bat third, he can bat fourth. Wherever you put Ian Kinsler, the man can play, and he can do it well. And he's getting better with age, he's got like a reverse Benjamin Button thing. I mean, he's just better with age. Number 4, Brian Dozier. 162 game average is 27 bombs, 80 ribbies, 17 stolen bases. Now here's the reason he's 4 and not 2 or 3. He's only hitting 246 in 162 game average. He needs to get that average up. He needs to have a little bit better of a glove. But when it comes to power, there's been no better second baseman in the league over the last couple of years than Brian Dozier. No one can go on a home run streak like Brian Dozier. The man hit like a home run in 7 straight games or something like that. Definitely one of the most talented second basemen in the league. Just needs to get that average up and it could move up on the list at any second. At number 3, probably a little shocking. I don't think a lot of people would expect me to because I'm still pissed off he's not a Met. But Daniel Murphy, there's no denying this man. In the middle of 2015, a lot of people don't notice, Daniel Murphy had more base hits than Mike Trout and Miguel Cabrera over the last 6 years. No one really knows that. This man can hit the baseball. And we all know what he did in the playoffs, one of the best playoff performances in the history of baseball. He's clutch. He's clutch. He's been clutch his whole career. He had 389 with runners in score position last year. Are you kidding me? Almost 400 with people on base? Are you kidding me? Mets, you're retarded. Number 2, Robinson Cano. You can't put him much lower than this on the list, man. Robinson Cano over the last couple of years, 24 bombs, 95 RBIs, 307 average. Over the second half of last year, he was one of the best hitters in baseball. He's got such a sweet glove. I know he's a little lazy sometimes, but Robinson Cano probably has the most I think he has more talent than Altuve, to be honest. However, the reason I didn't put Cano above Altuve is because of Altuve's last 2 years. But Robinson Cano, man, offensively, no one's better at second base, I don't think, in terms of overall package with average, RBIs, home runs, and so on. And number 1, like I said, Jose Altuve. This is one of the things where when you see a stat sheet, it doesn't tell you the whole story. Altuve, 162 game average is 12 home runs, 63 RBIs, nothing spectacular. But then you realize he's 5'2", and you're like, damn, that's actually like 30 home runs, 90 RBIs. And he's averaging 204 hits a year. 204 hits. That's insane. That's insane. Don't forget the fact that he's averaging 39 stolen bases a year. Don't forget he's got one of the best gloves in the game, one of the best leadoff hitters in the game. He's batted third 25 times last year. He's also another guy you can put anywhere. He's got pop. He's got speed. He's got leadership. He's 5'2", and he's got the biggest heart on the field. He is the best second baseman in baseball. So, now we'll move on to third base, and this right here was also tough. Third base, there's so many good third basemen, man. I didn't know who the hell to put anywhere. I knew who my number 1 was, but after that it was tough. Rob, who are your top 5 third basemen?
Third base, all right. Yes, third base is very tough. But at number 1, I got Josh Donaldson. Batted, I think my stats are more current. 291 with 28 home runs. Is that correct?
For when is that? For 2016?
Yeah. I don't know
No.
if I got the...
No. I think that was a little before, but you're okay. Just keep going.
All right, anyway. All right, number 2, I got Chris Bryant. I'm not going to go stats because mine are wrong, but Chris Bryant at number 2. Then I got Arenado, number 3. Jock Peterson at number 4, and Matt Carpenter at number 5. And well, I guess I would just be short here and say those are my top 5.
All right.
Hold on. Now,
Yeah.
once again, excuse Rob. He's first of all, Rob likes to drink. We'll put that in there to start off. But we definitely didn't give him enough time to do it. Rob is usually one of, he's a stat leader, so
Absolutely.
don't mind Rob. Rob's a beast. He's just we didn't give him enough time to
prepare. Just another add-in. Jock Peterson plays center field, but it's okay.
Oh yeah,
that blue Paps, man.
Right.
That blue Paps, man, is kicking it. We know. All right, David, go ahead.
All right.
No,
so
the problem is I should go back to drinking.
All right.
I haven't drank in a while and messing up my head.
All right, so I'm gonna get going with my top 5 third baseman here. Number 5 is we've talked a lot about underrated players so far this podcast. This guy right here might be one of the most underrated players in the game today. You never hear his name, but he puts up the same average of stats every year. And if you play MLB The Show, you hear it every time he comes up to bat. This guy puts up 20 to 30 home runs every year, anywhere from 80 to 100 plus RBIs, plays 150 plus games. That man is Kyle Seager of the Seattle Mariners. Last year, this is exactly like I said. Here you go. He played in 158 games. He had 30 home runs. He had 99 RBIs, and he hit 278. I mean, and his glove is there. I mean, he's not on Machado's level or Arenado's level defensively, but he's got a good glove for a third baseman. And Kyle Seager, being one of the most consistent guys on this list, puts up good stats every single year. Number 4 is where Josh Donaldson drops down for me. He hit 284 last year with 37 home runs and 99 RBIs. Obviously Josh Donaldson is still one of the premier third basemen in this league, but because there are so many good third basemen, I mean, Josh Donaldson having a slightly down year, it drops him down to, the number 4 spot on my list. Excuse me. Number 3 for me is where I slot in the World Series guy, Mr. Chris Bryant. 292, 39 home runs, 101 RBIs. The reason I have him down at number 3, not show it, I don't know his defensive stats, but as far as I know, his defense isn't all there compared to these other guys. I mean, he's not a Machado, he's not an Arenado, he's not a Donaldson even, because Donaldson has a great glove and arm at third base. He's obviously great offensively, but so are these other guys. Number 1 and 2 for me was very hard to decide between the two. But number 2 is Manny Machado, the best defensive third baseman in the game today. And that's not even close for me. Manny Machado is the best defensive third baseman in the game and could very well be the best defensive shortstop in the game if they were to move him over there full time. He hit 294. He had 37 home runs. He had 96 RBIs, and he played in 157 games. We finally got a real full season of Manny Machado because he had some health concerns before that. But number 1 on my list, which I think is pretty apparent now, is Nolan Arenado. Obviously, his stats are inflated a bit from playing in Colorado, like Glenn said, with Odor playing in Texas. But, I mean, this Nolan Arenado to me, is the best third baseman in baseball. He had 294, the same average as Machado, but had 41 home runs, 133 RBIs, and played 161 games. He missed 1 game all season and still batted just under 300, 41 home runs, 133 RBIs. That number blows my mind. Yes, the Colorado offense is good, but for a guy to have over 130 RBIs in that offense, I don't know about that. And his glove is absolutely spectacular. Not too far behind Machado, I guess, defensively, but obviously Machado is by far the best defensively. But Arenado, his bat, his demeanor as a player, he does everything well. That's my top 5 third baseman.
Okay, we definitely have a disagreement there, between when you said Machado has the best glove and it's not even close. Let me tell you something about Arenado. Gold glove, hands down. Now, I don't know if he's better than Machado defensively. Maybe range-wise Machado's better. Maybe Machado has a better arm, but Arenado's glove is insane. But let me get into my list. So,
wait, can I just ask before you start, who won the third base gold glove in 2016? Because I thought it was Machado. I didn't even look at that.
Well, remember, Manny Machado played about 45, 50
at
games at
shortstop
as well.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay,
that's
I
the
forgot
thing.
about that. Yep, you're right. Okay, sorry,
Yeah.
continue.
All right, so my honorable mentions are Evan Longoria, Kyle Seager, Miguel Franco, Justin Turner, and Matt Carpenter. Now, let me tell you something about Matt Carpenter. If Matt Carpenter plays 162 games a year, Matt Carpenter's on this list because he's one of the most consistent players in baseball. He's just got some injury history, which is why it keeps putting him off these lists. But that's my honorable mentions. Now, David was talking about Kyle Seager at number 5 being one of the most underrated third basemen in baseball. You rarely ever hear his name. I have the same infrastructure for what you said, but for a different player. My number 5 is Adrian Beltre. For the last 15 years, Adrian Beltre has averaged 27 homers, 94 RBIs, a 286 average. He's got one of the best gloves in baseball every single year. The leadership this man brings to the field is undeniable. Everyone loves him. Not one person has said a bad thing about Adrian Beltre in the history of his existence. In the playoffs, he's hitting .307. everything you can say about Adrian Beltre or any good baseball player, Adrian Beltre is it. He can do it all every year, year in and year out. 20 plus bombs, 85 plus RBIs, 280 plus average, and never stops. Until this man dies or retires, he's going to be on the top 5 of my third baseman list. Now, number 4, I have Manny Machado only because, number 1, when you look at his 162 game average, 28, 83, 284. When you look at that, those do not jump out of you. He's also not a full-time third baseman. He's a shortstop now. So I had to put him a little bit lower on the list. Now, like David said, we finally got a full glance at Manny Machado. So those 162 game averages are a little bit tainted, but nonetheless, it's still not mind-boggling in terms of the other 3 third basemen on this list. So that's why I had to put him a little lower. But as David said, there's nobody better with the glove. There's nobody better with the arm. Machado could jump into the stands with D. Gordon running and do a Derek Jeter flip and still get him out at first base because he's just that good with the glove. But like I said, his full line of work still doesn't put him above the other 3 in terms of full lines of work. Number 3, Josh Donaldson. 32 homers, 102 RBIs, a 278 average, 365. This is a 162 game average. And in 2013, since 2013, he has the most home runs of any third baseman in the league. He's an MVP. Without him, the Blue Jays are absolutely nothing. I don't care about Jose Bautista or Encarnacion. Donaldson was the key to that team. His glove, his leadership, everything about Donaldson puts him top 3 third baseman. He just does everything the proper way. And I know A's fans are missing him right now. Number 2, Chris Bryant. In 2 years, his 162 game average is 34 home runs, 106 RBIs, a 284 average. He's played 151 games and 155 games. He's the model of consistency. He doesn't get hurt. He scores a lot of runs. He has a decent glove. Like David said, his defense isn't the greatest, but he's good enough. He's definitely good enough. And the one thing that Chris Bryant needs to do is strike out less with people on base. He has struck out 377 times in 2 years. That's insane. If he gets that down, he has the potential to be the next Chipper Jones. If he gets those strikeouts down, he's going to be one of the best third basemen ever. Ever. And speaking of best third baseman ever, Nolan Arenado. In 4 years, he has shown that he has one of the best gloves in the history of third base. He's averaging 32, 109, and a 285 average. Now, that's a 162 game average. Over his last 2 years, he's averaging 41 homers, 132 RBIs with a 290 average, with one of the best gloves in baseball. There's nobody in baseball that can hit bombs and drive in runs like Nolan Arenado. I don't care what field you're playing in. Nolan Arenado he's the best player in baseball. That's right, Mike Trout fans. Nolan Arenado, best player in baseball. And to me, it's not close. It's not close. So, we'll go on to shortstop. Rob, I'll be interested to see what you have to say. Top 5 shortstop. Take it away, Rob.
I think I finally found the right thing here on the stats. Okay, let's go here. My top 5 shortstops. I got at number 1, Lindor. Last year he batted 307. With 21 home runs, 56 RBIs. And then I got at number 2, Corey Seager, who batted 311 with 18 home runs, 82 RBIs. Right? No. Well, anyway, number 3, I got Bogarts.
You're good.
Bogarts, he batted 312. 312 with 14 home runs, 69 RBIs. This one was hard for me. Between 4 and 5, I changed it up here recently. I put Jonathan Viller. He batted 299. I don't remember how many home runs. And then I got I can never, even though he plays for the Cardinals, I can't say his name right. Almenez Diaz batted 312 with 14 home runs and 57 RBIs. And then I give an honorable mention or whatever 5'8" to Trevor Story. Batted 272. I forget how many home runs, but those are my top 5 plus Trevor Story getting an honorable mention there.
Nice. Good job.
All right. So I'm gonna start out with my honorable mention because I mean he is quickly became one of my favorite players in baseball. Jonathan VR. For the Brewers, he played shortstop, most of last season until the end when Orlando Arcia came up, which that's another young rookie name to look out for in these big time names of young shortstops. Um, but Jonathan VR, he came over after being kind of a role player down in Houston, and he jumped into the starting role and he ran with it, and I mean that literally and figuratively. Literally and figuratively. There we go. Um, he led the league in stolen bases. He hit for average. He did everything the Brewers needed him to do, being a rebuilding team. He will be our second baseman moving forward. Thank God, because I hate Scooter Gennett. I don't even need to get into that right now. But it will be Jonathan VR moving forward at second base for the Brewers, and I think that'll make him even better because his glove and arm were good. I mean, he has an amazing arm, but his glove started to falter a little bit as he played more and more games, so I think moving to second base will be huge for them, and having him and Arcia up the middle is going to be huge for the Brewers moving forward. So that brings me to number 5 on my shortstop list. Speaking of defense, Brandon Crawford. To me, he is the second best defensive shortstop in the game today, and that is only because Andrelton Simmons is an amazing shortstop. If Manny Machado was a full-time shortstop, I'm sure it's Machado. But Andrelton Simmons is a fantastic defensive shortstop, and Brandon Crawford is right behind him. He also hit 275, 12 home runs, 84 RBIs, played 155 games last year, so, he's playing a lot. He is a great all-around shortstop. Number 4 for me is the guy that was number 1 on probably almost everybody's list last year, and that is Carlos Correa. Carlos Correa did not have the season people expected of him by any means. People expected him, to just blow up. He's finally having one full season. He's gonna hit 40 home runs. He's gonna hit 300 and something. He's gonna drive in 120 RBIs. No, he didn't. He hit 274, 20 home runs, 96 RBIs. Now, for a shortstop with a good glove, those are still fantastic numbers. I would still take Carlos Correa any day of the week, but not number 1. At number 3 for me is Xander Bogaerts. He actually hit 294 with 21 home runs and 89 RBIs. Which for Xander Bogaerts, you know what you're gonna get out of him. He's been putting up those numbers since he came up, and he's another one of those guys. What is he? 22, 23. I mean, he's another young guy. He's been up a couple of years. He played some third. He played some short. I mean, he does everything you need him to do. Number 1 and 2 for me were real difficult. But I'm going to go Francisco Lindor at number 2. The only switch hitter on this list. Another very good glove at shortstop. Very, very good glove at shortstop. Played 158 games, hit 301, had 15 home runs, 78 RBIs. Francisco Lindor is another one of those guys. Ideal shortstop. Kind of a littler guy, switch hitter, high average, good speed, a little bit of pop, can drive in some runs when you need him to. But number 1, National League Rookie of the Year, Corey Seager. Yes, obviously he only has one season under his belt. Yes, he could have the sophomore slump this coming year. He could do this, he could do that. But right now, if you had to ask me to pick a shortstop in the game today, it's Corey Seager. 157 games played as a rookie is an incredible number. 308 average, 26 home runs, 72 RBIs. Now, yes, I know, Glenn, because I know you're going to point it out, that 72 RBIs is a very low number, especially in that Dodgers lineup. When he's hitting 3, 4, 5 in that lineup throughout the year. But, I mean, to have the average where it was, to hit 26 home runs, to play in 157 games as a rookie, and to be able to keep that going throughout the season, he is the number 1 shortstop in the game right now, and that is my top 5 list at shortstop.
Okay, I'll be honest with you. Our list does not differ that much, including number one and two.
Finally.
My honorable mentions. Somebody that no one ever talks about. Alcides Escobar. He played all 162 games last year. He is the model of consistency. He plays every single day. He does a great job for the Kansas City Royals.
Former Brewer.
Jonathan VR. Yeah. Speaking of Brewers, Jonathan VR, definitely an honorable mention. Could definitely put himself in the top five of his position. I think you said he's playing second base now. He
Yep.
could definitely get up in the top five second base next year with
Absolutely.
that speed and that bat. Crawford, I do not have him in my top five. I know he has one of the best gloves in baseball, but I'll get into why he's not top five soon. Didi Gregorius is definitely an honorable mention. Had an amazing year. Asdrubal Cabrera from the Mets, man, he actually had the best game-to-game numbers of any shortstop in baseball last year from August until October. Well, now people don't know that, but he was amazing. Simmons, got to give him a full year to see if I can put him top five. That glove is top 1A immediately. Elvis Andrews doesn't get a lot of respect, but he always puts up decent numbers. Rob's Boy Diaz and Trevor Story will be on this list by the end of the year. Now, top five. Number five, and I have a whole bunch of stars next to this one, because my number five is Troy Tulowitzki. The stars, what they say next to it, health, 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 health. If Troy Tulowitzki stays healthy, Troy Tulowitzki is the best shortstop in baseball, and there's literally no debate on it. The problem is, you don't stay healthy. So, Troy Tulowitzki's 162 game average, which doesn't play 162 games, but it's 29 bombs, 100 RBIs, a 292 average, and one of the best gloves in baseball when healthy. I got him at number five because I'm assuming he's going to be healthy for at least 150 games, which is literally the bit due Tulo playing 150. But this is what I'm going based on. If Tulo plays 150 games, no one's going to have better numbers than him. Nobody. And we all know that. So that's why he's still number five. I'm still hanging on to hope that Tulo can still regain form. Number four, I have Xander Bogaerts. 162 game average is 14 home runs, 75 RBIs with a 286 average. Now, those don't jump out at you, but this man led the league in average for half the year last year. He's got a bat. He can hit anything, anywhere. He's kind of got a Vladimir Guerrero kind of thing going on where you throw this guy a pitch in the dirt, he'll hit it. I mean, he's that good with the bat. I think going forward, because again, this is a right now, Bogaerts will remain on this list because he's got a great glove, he's got a great arm, he's got a great bat, he scores a ton of runs, he's got some speed, he's got some pop. Anything you want from a shortstop, Bogaerts has it. We just need to see another full year from him, you know, and then we'll definitely be guaranteed about it. Number three, I'm going to have Carlos Correa. Again, Carlos Correa could easily wind up number one at the end of the year. Carlos Correa has... The only problem Carlos Correa had this year wasn't his numbers. It was the hefty tag on him that he was going to be God. That was the problem because his overall numbers were really good last year if you put them on any other shortstop. He'd probably be number one if it was on any other shortstop because the one and two shortstops, Lindor and Seager, none of them had over 80 RBIs. So, again, if Carlos Correa was not Carlos Correa, he would still be number one on this list. He's got the glove. He's got the speed. His 162 game average is 27 homers, 105 RBIs, 17 stolen bases, 280 average, great glove, 356 OBP, and that's with a bad year last year. So, trust me, Carlos Correa at the end of the year will probably be number one again, barring a Tulo miracle comeback or barring injury by Correa or just a complete joke. Number two, Francisco Lindor, like David said, one of the only few switch hitters left at shortstop besides the few old guys. His 162 game average would be 17 homers, 81 RBIs, 20 stolen bases, a 306 average, and 356 OBP. For a shortstop with an amazing glove, that is amazing. Francisco Lindor is definitely one of the best young players in baseball, definitely one of the best shortstop in baseball. And I see with a player like Lindor, there's literally no chance he falls off. You know why? Because this is who he is. He didn't have like 40 home runs, 100 RBI year. Francisco Lindor played like Francisco Lindor. That's who he is. This is who he is as a player. And he's number two right now. So if he just remains the same, he's going to be top five for the rest of his career because he's just that good. At number one, David probably thought I wasn't going to put him there because I always combat him about Seager and his little RBIs. But Seager definitely is, as of right now, the best young shortstop in the game. He's got a great glove. Playing on the Dodgers, there's a lot of pressure on you to perform, and he performed. His 162 game average would be 30 home runs, 89 RBIs with a 312 average. That's amazing. That's amazing. Those are too low numbers if he played a full season in Colorado. You know what I mean? So he's really good. I can't deny how good he is. Definitely the best young shortstop in baseball. And as of right now, going into the season, there's not many shortstops. Obviously, I have none better than him going into the 2017 season. Now, what we did with outfield, which is our next position, we just did top 10 because if you say someone's a left fielder, they're probably a right fielder. If you say they're a center fielder, they're probably a left fielder. So we just did top 10 overall outfielders because it's too confusing on how many games they played at the certain outfield position. And we'll let Rob take this one away.
All right. My top 10 outfielders. Starting from number 1, the legend himself, Mr. Mike Trout. 2, Jason Hayward. 3, Cespedes. 4, Cruz. 5, Stanton. 6, Harper. 7, JD Martinez. 8, AJ Pollock, and 9, Randall Grichuk. The reason I got Hayward at second because I wasn't looking at his batting for the season. I was looking at the position as far as being outfield. His defense is one of the best, and he's got a hell of an arm on him. I just wanted to explain that. But if we wanted to go by batting and all that, I wouldn't even have him on the list because he had a horrible year. But that's the reason I had him at 2 for his defense, and he really did help the Cubs defensively win the World Series, I guess you could say. That's my top 10 right there.
All right. Well, man, this list. I mean, I very easily could have came up with a 5 at each position, but like Glenn said, you never know what outfielder plays what. You know, a guy like Yoenis Cespedes played some left, played some center. Whatever reason, won't play any right, even though he has the best arm in the game. But that's it again, totally another topic. So, my top 10 outfielders overall in the game right now. Starting at number 10, I have J.D. Martinez. J.D. Martinez has really come out the last 2 years, I believe. Has really kind of put on a surprise to a lot of people. He had some injury problems last year, only playing in 120 games. But he still hit 307, 22 home runs, 68 RBIs. Finally giving Miggy some real protection for a while there. JD Martinez is a good outfielder. His defense isn't completely there, but he does have the arm to back it up. So that's my number 10. Number 9 and number 8, I actually have 2 Rockies outfielders in a row. And the order I have them in is probably going to surprise some people, but number 9, I have Carlos Gonzalez. 150 games, 298, 25 home runs, 100 RBIs. I mean, Cargo is still Cargo. A lot of people said, he may have had a down year, or he may have blah, blah, blah. Cargo's Cargo. He's still putting up good numbers. He's almost looking like more of a platoon guy lately. He hasn't been hitting lefties as well last year, but, we'll see what happens with that. Number 8, then I think that becomes obvious, is Charlie Blackmon. Charlie Blackmon really, I think, finally put his name out there last year. He's still a very underrated player as well. But in 143 games, he had 324, 29 home runs, 82 RBIs. I mean, this guy, who was leading off to start the year for a good portion of the year, to have 29 home runs, driving in 82 runs, hitting over 300. I mean, and his defense is incredible. So from 7 through 4, I bounced around about 10 different times, the order on 7 through 4. But I ended up having at number 7, Starling Marte of the Pittsburgh Pirates. This is another guy who does it all in the game. Obviously his power is not all there. Okay. 129 games, 311 average, 9 home runs, 46 RBIs, and 47 stolen bases. Um, he runs and he runs a lot. He always gets on base to lead off that lineup. Um, like I said, he doesn't have the power. He doesn't drive in a lot of runs, but being a typical leadoff guy, he's hitting over 300. He's stealing almost 50 bags, and that's what you need a guy to do at the leadoff position. And his defense, again, that's another guy. His defense is phenomenal. I wish the Pirates would trade McCutchen so that Marte can move to center and show us his true potential with all that speed, because I think he'd be even better than he is now. Um, so that was 7. At number 6 is where I put Bryce Harper. Um, which I don't like Bryce Harper by any means. Whatever. Um, but I have now been shown by recent stats and whatnot as to why, when I tell people there are at least 5 outfielders that I would take in front of Bryce Harper, this is why, and this is why he's at number 6. Yes, obviously at MVP, 2015, but 2016 he regressed immensely. 243, only 24 home runs, 86 RBIs in that lineup. To have only 86 RBIs is ridiculous. So we don't know what we can get out of Bryce Harper going forward. I mean, does he have a very high ceiling to perform well in the future? Yes. Will he? I guess we'll all have to wait and find out, because we don't know what to expect from him at this point. At number 5 is where I have Giancarlo Stanton. Obviously, he still has the health concerns. He's been injured for a good portion of every year for the last couple of years, 3 years maybe. He played in 119 games, which is more than more than 2015. So, you got to be happy with that as a Marlin if you're a Marlins fan. He only hit 240. He only hit 240. He strikes out a lot. He had 27 home runs in the time he was playing, which was leading the league even like 3 weeks after he was on the DL for the rest of the year. I mean, that is insane. The guys like Nolan Arenado and Chris Carter, who were up there at the end of the season, were still behind him 2-3 weeks after he was on the DL. That is incredible. He had 74 RBIs, showing a lot of his stuff was solo shots, but that Miami offense obviously wasn't the greatest. So if Stanton could put together a season, I say this time and time again, if Stanton could put together a season where he played 150 games, I think he is your home run king, and it's not even close. Number 4 for me, this is going to sound like a bit of a homer move, but trust me, these guys know I don't like the guy. I want him traded. I want this rebuild to continue. Ryan Braun. Yes, I know people are going to say, oh, his defense isn't the greatest. He has a noodle for an arm. Well, his defense isn't the greatest, but he throws it in with a wet noodle, because, he doesn't have to throw it hard all the time. If you see him making a play at the plate or play at second base, that ball's getting there, and it's getting there quick. Yes, obviously he has the injury history the last couple of years. He has the PED use in the past. He still played in 135 games in 2016, which, as a Brewers fan, I was pleased with. He did good. He hit 305, 30 home runs, 91 RBIs, and 18 stolen bags, so he can still swipe the bag here and there. Ryan Braun is still a very good outfielder. But like I said, I really wish a team would give us the right offer for him, because I want this rebuild to be complete, and Ron, I just don't think that's viable, because he's not going to continue to put up these numbers for a very long time. Number 3, this is where I get into my solid 1, 2, 3. So at number 3, I have Yoenis Cespedes. 132 games only last year, but 280, 31 home runs, 86 RBIs, and the arm that this man has. His defensive mindset might not be the best. He might not take the right route to balls all the time. He might, whatever. Like I said earlier when we were talking about Hall of Fame, Vladimir Guerrero is probably one of the best arms that people have ever seen in the outfield. Yoenis Cespedes is not far behind. It is absolutely insane the kind of throws he can make from all over the outfield. Left, center. I think he needs to be playing right, but I've heard quotes of him actually saying he does not want to play right field, and that's why they won't put him there. I don't know if that's true or not, but I think this man needs to be in right field. But whatever, he's still number 3 in the outfield overall. All right, so these next two were very difficult for me. I know Glenn's sitting here thinking, because he knows exactly who these two people are. And he probably has just no idea of which way I'm going to put them as which way I'm going to put them. But I put Mookie Betts at number 2. Mookie Betts had the by far career year last year. You know, obviously if he can keep it going, it won't be the career year. It'll be a typical year, but 158 games. He hit 318, 31 home runs, 113 RBIs, 26 stolen bases. In the middle of that Red Sox offense, you know, he hit leadoff, he hit number 3. He was down at the beginning of the season, I think at like 6 or 7 even for a while. But Mookie Betts is very close to being one of the best outfielders in baseball. I don't think he should be playing right field. He doesn't really have the arm as a right fielder. But, you know, we'll see where it goes from here. Mookie Betts is phenomenal. And number 1, like Rob said, the legend himself, Mike Trout. This guy is phenomenal. You know, one of the best players in baseball. Obviously not number 1, but Mike Trout, 315, 29 home runs, 100 RBIs, 30 stolen bases in 159 games. So yes, you know, a lot of people are like, oh, Mookie Betts' stats are better than Mike Trout. But overall, I mean, Mike Trout's defense is better. Their speed is very similar. I want to see Mike Trout go back to the way he was playing when he first came up. You know, he wasn't hitting as many home runs. He was stealing more bags. You know, he could be a 40-40, 50-50 player. But obviously, you know, we don't want him to be hitting that many home runs. You know, I want to see him steal more bases. I want to see him bring the speed back into his game while still hitting that high average, while still hitting, you know, 25, 30 home runs. And driving in 100 RBIs in that Angels lineup is insane. So right there is my top 10 outfielders in the game right now.
Okay, now I just want to say I feel like an absolute moron. By the way, David, our top 10, we have 9 of 10 the same, and the reason we don't have 10 of 10 the same is because my dumbass forgot about Mike Stanton. I'm gonna put Stanton on now at number 10, just because we don't know where he can wind up, just because he's coming off injury. But adding Mike Stanton, I've taken off your boy, which is Ryan Braun. Now I had Ryan Braun at 10 because Ryan Braun's 162 game average is 34 bombs, 112 RBIs, 22 stolen bases, a 304 average. That's his 162 game average, but that's over his career. Since 2013, they've been, you know, if he didn't have the year he had last year, since 2013 he wouldn't even be considered on this list. But just going over the overall body of work and what he did last year, I had him number 10. I got to put Stanton there just because it's Stanton. And like David said, Stanton could go from 10 to number 1 if he has the full year that, you know, if he plays 150 games, Mike Stanton would be number 1, or John Carl, whatever the hell he called himself. But yeah, I totally forgot about him. But everyone else on our list is the same, except McCutchen. I don't think you had McCutchen on your list. I still have him on my list. Let's go over this. Let me do honorable mentions first. Mark Trumbo, the best power hitter in baseball right now is Mark Trumbo, and there's no question if Stanton doesn't play. I didn't have Stanton, so that's why Trumbo was there. But Trumbo's the best power hitter in baseball next to Stanton. Carlos Gomez, I have him on the honorable mention list just because if he goes back to anywhere near, you know, pre-2015, he'll be top 10. Ian Desmond had an amazing year last year. I want to see him follow that up. Dexter Fowler, Christian Yelich, who doesn't get a lot of love, but he's damn good. Jackie Bradley Jr., another guy who was leading the league in average for like 3 months. Jacoby Ellsbury, Aaron Judge, I think, could be top 10 on the list by the end of the year if he has the year that everyone expects him to. Ozuna, amazing outfielder. Adam Jones, George Springer, Ichiro, just because it's Ichiro. He's not not even nowhere near top 20, but it's Ichiro. I'm putting him anyway. And then Justin Upton. So those are my honorable mentions. Like I said, I switched Braun with Stanton. So let's get into number 9. That is Mr. Cargo. 162 game averages, 31 bombs, 100 RBI, 17 stolen bases, 291 average. Everyone says, oh, but he's injury prone. The man played 150 games last year, and he still put up 25 homers, 100 RBIs. And he's old, he can't hit, he's not hitting 25 and 100 for a guy who can't hit lefties anymore, for a guy who's injury prone, that just shows you what kind of player Cargo is. And in the last 2 years, he's played 150 plus both years. So maybe the injury thing is a little bit overdone. He's playing 150 plus games a year. Let's see what he does this year. He's definitely went from like number 3 on this list down to number 9, and it looks like he might continue to go lower. But as of right now, you got to give him his due. That's why he's still number 9. Number 8, Andrew McCutchen. How in the world can everyone forget about this guy? He had one bad year last year, one, and he still had 24 bombs with 79 RBIs. I would love for my bad year to be 27 and 79. I don't understand how could anyone just drop him off the list completely. He still has one of the best gloves in baseball. He's still one of the most clutch hitters in baseball. His 162 game, this was an MVP. His 162 game average is still 24, 87, 22 stolen bases, 292 average, a 382 OBP. People forget this man still walks at an amazing clip. I cannot ever take Andrew McCutchen off this list unless he does what he did last year worse. Then I'll take him off the list. But until then, you got to give McCutchen his love, man. I know he had a bad year, but it's Andrew McCutchen, man. I'm going to give him his props until, he falls completely off the radar. Number 7, I have JD Martinez. 162 game average is 27 bombs, 92 ribbies, 281 average, 32 doubles a year, which is absolutely amazing. People forget this. Those doubles, half of them could go over the wall. He could have 50 bombs. You never know. He's just that good. And then those are 162 game averages. Since he got on the Tigers, his averages are 31, 89, and 303. He's also hitting 367 with runners in scoring position. JD Martinez actually has a better average with people on base than Miguel Cabrera. So, JD Martinez definitely underrated. I know he got hurt last year, but if he had a full year, I'd probably have him higher on the list. Speaking of Andrew McCutchen and the Pirates, number 6, I'm going to give it to Marte. His power and RBIs aren't, they don't jump out at you at 16, 64. But the man steals 43 bases a year on average. He has one of the best arms in baseball. He has one of the best gloves in baseball. He hits for average. He can hit leadoff. He can hit fifth. He can hit anywhere. The injury definitely tallied off his season last year, but he was up to one of the best starts in baseball history last year in terms of stolen bases and singles. He was raking, man. And I think if he has a full year like he did last year, if he does what he did in the first half last year, he'll be top 5 at the end of the year, no doubt about it. Now, number 5, David had him on his list, but I have him a little bit higher, is Charlie Blackmon, one of the most underrated outfielders in baseball, man. He does everything. And again, his numbers don't look super fancy because he's been leadoff for like 120 of those games, but 20 bombs, 67 RBIs, 298 average, 358 on base percentage, 27 stolen bases. But since the last couple of years, it's been 23, 74, 308 with 30 stolen bases. It was one of the best gloves in baseball, a great arm. Again, another guy who hits leadoff that can hit third or fourth in the lineup. Just totally underrated. He deserves way more props than he's getting. That's why I got him at number 5. I hated to put this guy number 4 because I hate his guts. And I've been a huge person letting everyone know that this was the most undeserving MVP in the history of baseball, and Bryce Harper. All of his stats besides the home runs in his MVP year and OBP were just nothing. He didn't even get 100 RBIs in his MVP year. His defense is totally overrated. He's not that great of a fielder. He's not bad, but he's not great. But when you look at the 162 game average, it's 30 bombs, 82 RBIs, 14 stolen bases, 279 average, and a 380 OBP. He can get on base. That's the one thing I'll give him props for. He can walk. He can, and people were intentionally walking this guy, and he was having to figure out, hey, am I, do I swing? Great eye. I'll give him that much. But other than that, and then people are so why you have him 4th? Because his talent. You can't deny his potential talent. It just, he hasn't put it together. I know why people go gaga over this guy, but he hasn't done, what people are expecting of him. If he does put it together, he's going to be one of the richest men in the history of baseball because the stupid New York Yankees are going to give this man a $450 million contract in 2018. We all already know it. Let's see what he does this year. I think because he knows that, that's why he's the fourth ranked outfielder on my list this year. I think he's going to go off this year, but we'll see. Number 3, my boy, the GOAT, Yoenis Cespedes. Yeah, I can't say enough good things about him, but I can damn sure say a couple of bad things too, because in the playoffs, this man was just straight up scrubbing the World Series. He cost us that World Series. There's no doubting that. Well, okay, everyone hit like crap, but he was one of the reasons that we lost that World Series. But outside of that, Yoenis Cespedes, 31, 104, and 272 in a 162 game average. Since he came to the Mets, in his first 162 games, he had 47 home runs, 128 RBIs, and a 294 average. No Met in the history of the Mets had those kind of numbers in a full season, 162 games, mixed between 2 years. He did hit the DL this year, but if he didn't hit the DL this year, he would have another 40 home run season. The man is clutch as well outside of the playoffs. Make sure you understand that. In the regular season, every time we needed a big hit, like, please let Yoenis Cespedes bat. Please, please, please. When we needed a big home run, Yoenis Cespedes. When we needed anything big, Yoenis Cespedes. He is definitely a top 3 outfielder in the game. If he steps the hell up in the playoffs, who knows what he can become. Number 2, and the arm, of course, like David said, one of the best ever. Number 2, even though David probably thinks I would disagree with him when he put Trout and Betts, Betts is definitely not at Mike Trout's level yet. I will say that. However, Mike Trout did not deserve the goddamn MVP last year. Mookie Betts was the MVP. No, another topic. Mookie Betts, 25, 95, 25 stolen bases, 304 average. And look, did you hear that 162 game average? 25 bombs, 95 ribbies, 25 stolen bases, a 304 average, 355 OBP. He's got a great glove. His arm is not very good, but like David said, he's not a right fielder. So the arm,
And let me just cut you off for another second that people forget. He's another little guy like Altuve. I mean, he's not obviously as little as Altuve, but he's not that much taller, and he's still hitting, what'd you say, 25 on average a year? That's ridiculous.
Yep. Not only that, he's a second baseman. That's what his natural position was, second base.
Yep.
So, and he, like David said, he's got everything. Mookie Betts has it all. Would not be surprised if he's number 1 on this list at the end of the year as well. Then we get to the one all the nerds love, and rightfully so, Mike Trout. His 162 game average is 34 bombs, 99 ribbies, 29 stolen bases, 306 average, a 405 OPS, which, if you don't know what OPS is, it's pretty much everything combined. He leads the league every year, and everything combined with doubles, triples, home run. He is the second best player in baseball. Arenado's number 1. I don't care what anybody says. But Trout is like 1A, 1B between him and Trout is great. Can't deny it. The fielding, he's great. You can't deny Mike Trout. One of the best of all time. There's no denying it. So,
before you move on, Glenn, to the starting pitchers, I'm going to acknowledge our one viewer that we've had for quite a long time now, and has actually commented a couple times. I apologize if I'm saying this wrong. The Rain Foster podcast. He actually commented, and Glenn or Rob, if you want to add in on this real quick, but he asked, what does Mookie need to do to keep his spot in 2017? And I think he means his keep his spot. He means, top 2, maybe even top 5-ish. So, Glenn, do you want to comment? What do you think Mookie needs to do to, keep his spot up in the top, let's say, top 5 even?
He's just got to do what he did last year, man. He just maintain. That's it. He doesn't have to do anything extra. He doesn't have to do anything over the top. Just do what he did last year. Even if he does 2/3 of what he did last year, he'll probably be top 5. He's that good, man. Keep up the speed. Keep up the glove. Keep hitting with runners in scoring position. Just keep doing his thing. Everything he's doing now, just keep doing. Doesn't have to do anything extra.
Yep. Rob, you have anything to add to that?
No, Mets King said it pretty much. Stay consistent. I apologize for not having him on my list. You guys said it, and
no, that's okay.
Mookie Betts definitely in the top 3, if I could change it. But yeah, actually, I put Nelson Cruz at 2. I switch out Cruz with Mookie Betts.
That was the other guy. That was the other guy you said. Cruz and Stanton. When you mentioned those two, I was like, Holy shit! I
I
forgot those two. How can I
Yep,
forget those two
Cruz was one
guys?
of my
But
honorable mentions, but he's mostly a DH now anyways, so
yeah.
But yeah, like Glenn said, stay consistent. Just do what you're doing. Just keep doing what you're doing, and
yep,
you
and
and he's gonna be.
yep, and guy commenting, that's exactly the same thing I would have said. If he stays consistent, even if he diminishes to, like a 300 even average, a 30 home runs even, 100 RBIs even, you know, playing 158 games a season and still putting up those numbers is phenomenal. Mookie Betts is probably my favorite player right now, not playing on the Milwaukee Brewers. So I really hope he does keep it up. He's fun to watch. So Glenn, take it back.
All right, so we've done our outfielders. Now we didn't do closers. I will say that because closers is hard, man. Ever since Mariano Rivera left baseball,
Hmm.
there's no automatic closer anymore. I mean, you can say Britton, you can say, but there's no automatic guys anymore. It's not the way it used to be anymore. So we figured we just would leave off closers. We're gonna do our starting pitching, our top 5 starters, and I'm sure this was the most difficult for all of us,
By
especially me,
far.
because on my team, the New York Mets, I can name the damn 5 starting pitchers right now and say they're all top 5, but I didn't because I'm trying not to be a homer. But Rob, what do you got for pitchers?
Yeah, I agree with you. Try not to be a homer, and trying to go through it all. Because there's so many good pitchers out there that are overlooked and everything else. But as the top five, I put um, Baumgartner at number one, Kershaw at number two, um, DeGrom at number three, Sonny Gray at number four,
Oh,
and Keuchel at number five.
Ooh,
I
okay.
know Keuchel was hurt last year. Is that right? But he can
yeah.
still, he's when he comes back, he's still gonna have it.
Yeah.
So that's my top five.
All right. Well, I will tell you, Glenn, Mets King, whatever. I do have one Met on my list, but it is not the same one as Rob had. So, like you said, very interesting with that Mets rotation. Um, so at number 5, well, okay, first off, let me say, obviously very sad, but obviously also very stupid. If Jose Fernandez was still with us, he would be in my top 5, no questions asked. I mean, he was a phenomenal young pitcher. It's sad that he had to throw his life away. And I'm just being real, all you people that want to go, oh, it's not his fault, blah, blah, blah. When you're coked out driving on a boat at 3 a.m. in the pitch black, it's your fault. You have a pregnant girlfriend at home, you start the next day, it's your fault. Okay?
Yep,
Okay. So, no more of that.
agreed.
My honorable mentions for this list, I do not have Madison Bumgarner in my top 5. He is an honorable mention. I do not have, I didn't even think of Keuchel. But, like you said, when he gets back from injury, he's going to be another very good starting pitcher. A guy I'm actually surprised you didn't say, Rob, that could very well break into this top 5 in the coming years is Carlos Martinez. I think he's a very good young pitcher that is, could be in the same talks as those Mets young starting pitchers in the future. I do not have Greinke. I do not have David Price. I do not have, King Felix because he's been, very down in the recent years. So, a lot of those guys are honorable mentions. There's so many good starting pitchers. I don't have any of the Cubs guys, which a lot of them were very good. Hendricks, Lester, Arrieta. I don't have any of those guys on my list either.
Sorry to interrupt you, but I can already tell we have 4 of 5 the same exact because. Okay, well I'll just let you go, but most
All
likely
right.
we have the same.
All right. So at number 5, I believe the oldest man on this list of mine, Justin Verlander. Last year, I actually feel he should have won the AL Cy Young last year over Porcello, I believe, won it, or correct?
Yeah.
Yep, okay. I actually thought Verlander should have won it. He went 16-9, 3.04 ERA. Still pitched 228 innings and 34 games started. And Verlander, everybody was like, oh no, Verlander's getting bad with age. His fastball's slowing down. His off-speed stuff isn't as good. Blah, blah. It's Justin Verlander, people. Cy Young, MVP. Like, he's not going to lose it. I mean, he will, obviously, eventually. But he's not losing it now. He should have been Cy Young again last year in the American League. And this man, you can't look past him. Justin Verlander is a phenomenal pitcher. Now, at number 4 is where my Mets pitcher comes in, Noah Syndergaard, aka Thor. Um, 30 games started, 14-9 with a 2.6 ERA in 183 innings pitched. I didn't add the strikeout numbers. I'm sure there were a lot of them because this guy's a strikeout machine. In the future, if he keeps pitching the way it is, barring injury, he could turn into one of the best He could easily become number 1 on this list. I have no doubt in this mind. Noah Syndergaard, in my opinion, is the best person on that Mets young staff. With that, number 3, his stats didn't fully back it up last year, but after my top 2, if I were to pick another starting pitcher right now, number 3, Chris Sale. 17-10, 3.3 ERA, 32 games started, 226 innings pitched. I actually did log his strikeouts. It was 253 strikeouts. But his ERA was a little higher, but to still win 17 games with the White Sox last year, with them struggling and them, I'm very, very excited. And I know I mulled over Mookie Betts a little bit there too. I'm not a Red Sox fan by any means, but I am very excited to see what Chris Sale can do with the Red Sox with a winning team behind him, because that's another guy that could very easily move up to 1 or 2 on this list. I will wait to see what he does with the Red Sox this year, but he is a very, very good pitcher. Now, number 1 and 2. This was another very hard decision to make, but I have Clayton Kershaw at number 2. And I'll tell you why after I tell you his 2016 stats: 12-4, 1.69 ERA, 149 innings pitched, and 20 games started only. He's starting to show some injury problems here. The year before, I know he missed a good amount of time, I believe. If this is 1A and 1B, and it's obvious, and I mean, it's even like 1AA and 1AAB, because like they're so close. But the one thing that split number 2, Clayton Kershaw, and my number 1 guy apart is their playoff stats. Because Clayton Chokeshaw, as everybody likes to call him, in 18 games or 19 games started, in the playoffs, he's 4-8 with an ERA almost at 5.
Welcome.
Yeah, thanks Cardinals for that. He does not show up in the playoffs. He is a regular season GOAT, basically. I mean, I know that's big to say, but he is a regular season monster. My number 1 pitcher in the league right now is Max Scherzer. In his career in the playoffs, he's 5-4 with an ERA just over 3 in 15 games started. In 2016, he went 20-7, a 2.96 ERA, 35 games started, 228 innings pitched. I mean, he turned into a monster for the Nationals when they needed him to be. He was a definite number 1. He did everything that I think anybody could ask of a lot of starting pitchers in the game. And so it's really surprising, but that's why I put like I said, the playoffs is the main reason. The career playoff numbers is the main reason I had Max Scherzer at number 1 right now over Clayton Kershaw.
Okay. So I'm gonna combat you right away, of course. Number 1, if postseason mattered that much to you, then why the hell do you have Madison Bumgarner off your list? If playoffs meant that much between Max Scherzer and Clayton Kershaw, then Madison Bumgarner should have been number 1 on your list. Now let me get into this real fast, and we can come back later. We have 4 of the 5 same pitchers on this list. Um, I do not have Verlander under. I have Verlander as an honorable mention because the same top five, just in a different order. Um, DeGrom, King Felix, Verlander, Kluber, Lester, Kendrick, Strasburg, and Dummy Fernandez were in my honorable mentions. Number five, I have Chris Sale. He has again, we're going over based on the 35 game full season pitching. Chris Sale, 3 ERA, 201 innings pitched, 167 hits, which anytime you have 20 or 30 less hits than innings pitched, you are an elite pitcher. So like I said, 201 innings pitched, 167 hits, 225 strikeouts, a 1.06 whip, and Chris Sale leads the league every year in complete games, which is a lost art in today's game. Chris Sale did have an off year last year, which is why he's number 5 for me, because remember, we're doing right now going into the season. Chris Sale could easily be top 3 in this list by the end of the year. Like David said, I'm really excited to see what he does behind the Red Sox team that actually is going to score the man some runs. Let's see. He can be a 30-game winner, to be honest. I mean, if he's on his game, he can be one of the best statistical seasons ever.
Absolutely.
So we'll see. But also, remember, Fenway is a hitter's park. Chris Sale, his entire career, got to pitch in a very weak offensively AL Central with the Royals and the Twins and the Indians. These teams aren't big hitter teams. So let's see what he does in the AL East, which is probably the best offensive division in baseball. I'm really interested to see what he's going to do. Number 4, Madison Bumgarner. The reason he's on here, not 162 games, not a offensive guy. 35 games, 2.99 ERA, 16-11, 221 innings pitched, 191 hits, 218 strikeouts with a 1.09 whip. He is the greatest postseason pitcher I have ever seen. I seen firsthand against my Mets in this damn wild card game how good this man is, even when he doesn't have his best stuff. Because he did not have his best stuff versus the Mets that day, but he's just that good to pitch his way out of any playoff situation. He pitched 4 games in the World Series they won versus the He's the man in the playoffs. You can't deny him. Because of that reason, he's number 4. And he's also great in the regular season. He's one of the best hitting pitchers in baseball. He can do everything. Madison Bumgarner is the complete pitcher. He's not higher on the list just because the other 3 are really freaking good. Number 3, I have your boy Max Scherzer, who you have number 1. Max Scherzer's problem to me has been his ERA. His ERA has been pretty high. Now, this is including when he's with the Tigers as well, because I'm going over the 35-game average. 3.39 ERA, 214 innings pitched, 185 hits per those innings, which is amazing. 237 strikeouts. Since 2012, though, he's had 18-plus wins a year on average, 252 goddamn strikeouts. That's insane. With a 2.87 ERA, one of the best whips in baseball with .98, and he's the best K machine in baseball. So, he's number 3 simply because, now you said he did decent in the playoffs, which he, there's no denying that you threw the stats out there. However, he gives up too many home runs. If I'm in a game in which it's a 1-1 game with 3, 4, and 5 coming up in the lineup, I'm going to be hesitant to leave Max Scherzer in the game because all it takes is one swing that he gives up a ton because he throws so fast, a bomb out of the, a bomb to make it a 2-1 game. Yep. That's the only issue I have with Scherzer. There's nothing else wrong with him. Besides those weird eyes, but whatever. Max Scherzer definitely, there's no denying he's had top pitcher stats over the last 3 years. Behind one pitcher, and that's Kershaw, who's my number 1. But we're going to go to number 2. A little bit of bias, I'll throw that in there. But I'm going with Thor. And you want to talk playoffs? Thor is the only reason we got to the World Series when it comes to pitching. Thor and DeGrom were absolutely amazing in the playoffs. Thor, in the wild card game, 7 innings, 11 strikeouts, no earned runs. He should have won that game. He should have dethroned Bumgarner as the new best pitcher in the postseason. Thor in the playoffs has a 1.76 ERA. He's got 42 strikeouts in 4 games. That's 10 plus per game.
Yep.
2.89 ERA if he pitched in the 35-game year. It's 2.89 ERA. 208 innings pitched, 183 hits, which is way less than innings per, 240 strikeouts, a 1.10 whip, and have the Mets given this guy some damn run support, he probably would have been a 19-20 game winner. But When he pitches, they average 2.67 runs per game for him, which is one of the lowest in the history of baseball since, guess who? Johan Santana, who, guess what? Ex-Met. What a freaking surprise. So, and he's right up there with Shelby Miller when Shelby Miller was pitching great and the Braves couldn't score him a run. Right up there with that. But that's number 2. And number 1, and to me, I know Kershaw's playoffs haven't been great. But Rob jumped in, and I'm glad he jumped in and said this, because Kershaw's numbers when he doesn't face the Cardinals in the playoffs are actually pretty good. 3.27 ERA. He's got 2 wins outside of the freaking Cardinals. He doesn't give up many. Actually, he didn't even give up many home runs versus the Cardinals. He just gave up that one big grand slam, which pretty much ruined them. That's the picture. That's the face of choking now, is Kershaw in the playoffs. It's just versus the Cardinals, which I know it's easy to say, like, oh, it's just for the Cardinals, but it's just he faced them so many damn times, so it really did hurt him. But in the regular season, he's Peyton Manning. Like you said, they go in the regular season. Averaging 16-8, 2.37 ERA, and 227 innings pitched. He only gives up 167 hits. That is 50 hits less than innings pitched. 50. Nobody's ever done more than 40. He's done it 50. It's the best mark in the history of baseball. 247 strikeouts, let's just throw that on there, and a 1.00 whip. I mean, those numbers, Sandy Koufax didn't have numbers like that. Nolan Ryan didn't have numbers like that. Those are the greatest numbers in the history. And last year, if Clayton Kershaw would have pitched the whole year, he probably would have had the best pitching season in the history of baseball, hands down. But he got hurt, this and that, and the playoffs does hurt him a little bit in terms of his legacy. But when it comes to the best pitcher in baseball, Scherzer gives him a run for the money, but Clayton Kershaw is the guy I would want number 1 on my fantasy team, number 1 on my real team, number 1 on MLB The Show. He is the best pitcher in baseball, and that's why I put him at number 1. So, now that we've got all that out the way, this is a long, long podcast, but hey, it's a podcast. It's supposed to be long.
Yep.
Is there anything that you guys want to fight over? Is there anything you guys want to add? Is there anything you want to change? Speak now or forever hold your peace.
I would like to add something. We started off with the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
And as everybody was talking, I was scrolling through Facebook here, and then let's go back to the Hall of Fame. Now, I'm going to bring up a name that everybody hates, and the reason we hate him is because he crushed our dreams, and that's Jose Canseco. Jose Canseco, I guess, recently got on ESPN or Twitter or wherever, and he seems a little upset about Jeff Bagwell getting into the Hall of Fame, and Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa and Clemens not. Now, we all hate him because he crushed our dreams, but let's be honest. The man told the truth, he tells the truth, and he's not going to lie. That's why everybody hates him, because, you know,
and
he's revealing who did the steroids.
Yep.
And in his words, he said the Hall of Fame is about to have more drug users than San Quentin's prison guard, because Jeff Bagwell got in, and he said, in his words, Bagwell was a part of that era of using roids. So, I mean, I'm not trying to say he did or didn't because it's not proven, but there is speculation and all that. And I just wanted to say, you know, I find it interesting that he's coming out and saying it, which, you know, he hasn't been wrong yet.
Yeah.
I just wanted to know how people felt about that. You know.
Well, I think Jose Canseco's out of his damn mind. Anytime he says anything, there's no denying he's on some special kind of crack. But a lot of things he says does hold some merit, like you said. He does tell the truth a lot, but the way he says it, for some reason, he loses validity. What the hell am I thinking? What's the word?
Validity?
There you go. Thank you for helping me out. Jesus
You're welcome.
Christ.
Okay,
He loses that. Yeah.
Yeah. So before you guys go on, just a real quick, you know, little promotion. There's a picture with Jose Canseco's quote and, you know, fans' comments and stuff posted on our page, Smashmouth Baseball. So if you're watching, you know, go check that out. But since I have it pulled up actually right in front of me, once Rob said something, I will actually read to you what is quoted right from Jose Canseco. Jose Canseco said, and I quote, "There's going to be more drug users in Cooperstown than the yard at San Quentin," obviously meaning the prison yard. "How the F is Jeff Bagwell being inducted into the Hall of Fame and Mark McGwire's not? That is disgusting. It's a great day for the hypocrisy of the Hall of Fame voting, induct all that used PEDs or induct none. How it's not Mark
I
McGwire.
read.
Hold on.
I
How
read.
it's not
I'm sorry.
Mark McGwire, Sammy Sosa, Roger Clemens, Rafael Palmeiro not in the Hall of Fame. That is a travesty. And definitely Bonds should be in the Hall of Fame. Are you kidding me? That is disgusting." End quote.
That's the exact same thing I read. That's why I brought it up, but I lost it.
Yep, it's posted on our page by our Giants admin. So, but whether what he's saying is correct, whether he's on some special kind of crack, like Glenn said, I mean, I think these guys should be in the Hall of Fame. They were a special part of bringing fans back to baseball. I mean, it is incredible, And Barry Bonds was a good player before the steroids. So, I mean, I don't know.
Well, they all were.
Yeah.
Mark McGwire won Rookie of the Year, and he was as skinny as freaking. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
These guys, they just wanted to enhance, and they wanted to. They got too involved in. I want to do the home run record and all this stuff, and they just went down the wrong path. They were good players before the roids.
Yep. And you know what? Instead of dragging this on and on and on, if you look on our YouTube page, we did a podcast on steroids in baseball, on these guys, whether they should or should not be in the Hall of Fame. So if you want to go check it out, I'm sure our great friend Mets King can link that video in the description for you.
Indeed.
So if you want to check that out, the link for that will be in the description. We talked about, I'd say, it was the middle of last season, I'd say. We talked about, all those guys, PEDs, whether they did or didn't use, we thought, whether they should or should not be in the Hall of Fame, and most of us did say they should be. So instead of going on that topic for another 15, 20 minutes, another hour, I'll just let you guys go watch that video.
Yeah, we'll end this. Guys, if you're still watching to this point, God bless you. But if you are, and somehow you want in on our podcast, PS4, if you have a PS4, let us know. Message, comment, let us know. We will definitely try and include you in. We'll give you a little tryout to see if you're ready for it. If you're ready, we'll definitely include you guys in. We're always welcome from new people. If you want to talk with us baseball, we're always down to talk baseball. So give us a message, let us know, comment, all that nonsense, and we'll definitely try to include you guys in. But that'll be it. We'll let David close this out. Thank you for watching, guys. If you're watching this from Facebook, that means you're obviously already on our page. So thank you for watching it on Facebook. There'll be plenty more of these to come. So drop a like if you're down to see another one, or just tell us you don't want to see another one, and we'll definitely include another one anyway. All right, David, close it out.
All right, like Glenn said, this will be on Facebook. This is obviously on YouTube as we are live right now. This has been going on an hour and 49 minutes. But like Glenn said earlier, it is a podcast. It is meant to be long. Yes, we like to talk a lot, but I think it shows that we are very passionate about the sport we love, and that is baseball. We all had very different lists today. I'm sure you guys all have very different lists. If you want to list either one position or all your positions of your top fives, please do down in the comments below, whether you're reading this on Facebook or listening to this on Facebook or YouTube. Do what you can, comment, like, whatever you need to do. Other than that, guys, that has been Hall of Fame talk today. Subscribe to us on YouTube, like our video, comment below, again, with your thoughts. Follow our page, Smashmouth Baseball, on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram. I believe that one is still Smashmouth Sports, but that might be changed, not sure. Twitter is still Smashmouth Sports. There's been an iFunny created Smashmouth Sports, so we're all over the place. Go follow us. Go like us, comment, do whatever the hell you want to do, as long as you're following Smashmouth Baseball / Smashmouth Sports. With that, I hope you have a good day, and your team or individual athlete does not. Good night, everybody.